Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an OP Hunter Ranger build guide in Baldur's Gate 3. Now the Hunter Ranger is one of the less popular but still extremely powerful classes in the game. So with this we're going to be starting as the Ranger. Now this build comes online fully at a level 11, which is fairly late, but that's unfortunately the truth for the Glooms, or not for the Gloomstalker, but both the Hunter Ranger and the Beastmaster Ranger. So I'll be going over the best choices for this build because there's some really great ones that we can combine together. I think this is a very unique way of building this out too, so I'll be going over all of that. So for our favorite enemy, I think that the Ranger Knight's a nice way to get heavy armor. There isn't that many heavy armors that are great in the early game, but it's better than some of the other choices. Something like the Bounty Hunter, which gives you proficient, or gives enemies disadvantage on their saving throw from ensnaring strike. This can actually be really good early on if you don't want to take the Ranger Knight. And as for our natural explorer, Beast Tamer, it's nice to get find familiar, but it's honestly better to go with the Wasteland Wanderer Pfizer or Poison if you don't already have poison resistance, because early game it's just better to reduce the damage that we're going to be taking. So as for our ability scores, dexterity being our big one here, we do want to have a little bit of strength for jumping around, constitution obviously for health, and wisdom for our rolls that are to hold on to our ensnaring strike. So wisdom isn't going to be a super major stat. We'll have it at 16, and then we can take our constitution to around 14 and then 10 strength. And then if you have the Hag's Hair, like this is your main character, you can go with the +1 to the dexterity to take it to 18. Otherwise, I would go with 16 and put the rest of the points into either charisma or intelligence. So something like that would be great. And skill proficiencies, stealth is a solid one to have. Perception's okay. Survival, you want to take off. Survival just gives you... survival checks are more so for the chests, which you can just dig if you find you failed to roll. So take athletics there to just... Or I guess we already get a +3 to acrobatics. So you can go with something like insight or nature if you'd like. But we'll go with that for our skills. Now, I'll be going over all the best options for gear at the end, so you can stay tuned for that, because the way I'm going to be building this class is quite unique. So, for our spells, take Ensnaring Strike if you took the bonus to Ensnaring Strike earlier. Fog Cloud is also really nice, and Hunter's Mark. This will give you an additional 1d6 damage whenever you do an attack, and it does change to piercing damage, so we can go with that, take Hail of Thorns or Fog Cloud next turn. You can go with both the arrow attacks. Now for our fighting style, we can go with Sharpshooter later on for a feat, and then this will give us a +2 to our ranged weapon attacks, which will reduce that -5 to attack rolls to just a -3. Defense for the +1 to armor class is also extremely good, so early on sometimes it's better to just go for higher armor class just for the survivability that it brings, and you can respec later on. And then for our next level spell, Hunter's Mark or Fog Cloud. And then for our subclass, we're obviously going with the Hunter, because this will give us a Hunter's Prey, so we specialize in fighting specific threats. Choose one of the following. So we have Colossus Slayer, which will do an additional 1d8 damage if the target is below a hit point maximum. Giant Killer, larger, bigger creatures attack you. Use your reaction to make a melee attack. So that's pretty cool. Then Horde Breaker, target 2 creatures standing close to each other, attack them in quick succession. So the Colossus Killer is nice because you deal additional damage if the target is below their hit point maximum. So that can be pretty good for just overall damage. But Horde Breaker is also quite good because this gives you an action that'll be able to attack 2 targets standing close to each other for a free shot. So I think Horde Breaker is a good choice, honestly. And for the purposes of this build, I'll show you how that can be extremely powerful. Now we get our feat here, and I think it's best to just go with the dexterity improvement. Sharpshooter is another choice if you want to give +10 to your damage and -5 to attack rolls. That can be really good, but I think actually going with higher dexterity early on may be a good choice just for survivability's sake and for extra damage and attack rolls. Extra attack at level 5. We like that. So this will give us the ability to attack again. And it's a big power spike. And we also get to take Spike Growth, which is a really nice crowd control. Takes concentration, a level 2 spell, but it's pretty good. Level 5 is when everyone has their big power spike, so there's lots to get from this. But we get our next favorite enemy, and we can get Protection from Good and Evil, True Strike, which you should never use, Sanctified Stalker to give you Sacred Flame, which is also something you should probably never use. So Ranger Knight for the heavy armor and history proficiency. That's pretty solid. Now for our natural explorer, poison or cold damage are pretty good to go with. The resistance to cold damage is nice. You could get proficiency in sleight of hand if you really want it, but I think it's best to go with the cold or poison damage resistance, because that's just going to help out our survivability a bunch. Now for level 7, we get to choose another level 2 spell, and Pass Without Trace can be good for the plus 10 to stealth, which is really useful. Silence can be nice to shut down enemy casters. However, the only issue with Silence is most enemies will walk out of it, making it somewhat useless. But even Longstrider can be cast by someone in your camp, and it can be applied to everyone without taking up your spell slot. So you can take that if you don't want to do that. I like Fog Cloud for the heavily obscuring targets. We also get Defensive Tactics, so we can either get the Escape the Horde. This is from the Hunter Ranger itself. So advantage, opportunity attacks against you have disadvantage. Not huge. Steel will give you advantage on saving throws against being frightened. Also not huge, but multi-attack defense. Passive feature. When an enemy attacks you, they have a -4 penalty to additional attack rolls against you until the start of their next turn. That one seems to be the most effective of these three. Opportunity attacks are kind of self-inflicted, so if you find you're running around a lot getting hit by them, take that. Steel will give you advantage on saving throws against being frightened, which is okay, but multi-attack defense will just overall give you a bit more survivability, so I think that's the best. Overall, those are kind of lackluster, but we're taking the best of what we got. At level 8, difficult terrain no longer slows us down. That's huge. We also don't get a spell slot at this level, but we can go with an ability improvement to take up our dexterity even further. Or you can go with Sharpshooter. Sharpshooter will deal additional damage, and high ground rules don't apply to you. So one of these two works great. Personally, I'm going with Dexterity because it's going to increase our armor class as well as increase our melee attack rolls and our ranged attack rolls. So that can be very nice. Now at level 9, we get ourselves the level 3 spells with Conjure Barrage and our Lightning Arrow. I like Lightning Arrow. It's not massive damage, but it's something. A decent level 3 spell. Nothing crazy strong, but it's still nonetheless good. And for our favorite enemy, we can take, if you want proficiency in Arcana, you can take one of these two, or proficiency in Religion and get Sacred Flame. Not the best spell, but it's something. Protection from good and evil if you really want it, but Natural Explorer, you can go with the Find Familiar if you want, but I think Poison, just getting all damage resistance, is huge. We're a pretty defensive class, but level 11, this is when we get our best options with Volley. And also we get Whirlwind Attack. So that's the melee version of it. Strike out at all foes nearby. Volley is our Hunter Ranger specialty. So then we get to choose another spell. I like Plant Growth quite a bit myself. Getting quartered movement speed without concentration is really good. But Conjure Barrage is also pretty decent, so we're going to go with that there. And for the final level, if we want a feat, stay as the Hunter Ranger. I actually think that it's best to go another route with this. I actually think it's best to add in the Cleric and take these for our cantrips, so Resistance, Guidance, and Thaumaturgy. Since we already have the Sanctified Stalker, and we also got a bit of Wisdom, so this kind of works well. Now, two really good choices here. I like the War Domain because this will give us the bonus action attacks, 3 of them, which is huge because that just helps out with overall survivability and our attack rolls. And also you can get Divine Favor for additional radiant damage. The Tempest is nice too. It gives us Thunder Wave and a reaction and heavy armor. But I think the War Domain is best because this is going to give us the ability to get 3 extra attacks with a bonus action. Now, Healing Word's nice to be able to pick up down to allies if they go down. Sanctuary is huge. Guiding Bolt. I like Create Water to create... this is really good for setting up Storm Sorcerers, and I'll be showing you something really cool with this build. So yeah, we're going to go with that. Bless is good if you don't already have someone that is Bless, but Guiding Bolt's okay. You wouldn't really be using many of these, but we got a 16 Wisdom to be able to cast with, so that's at least something. Now, we got some pretty effective gear here that makes this build super powerful. So, with the gear, we have a 25 armor class, which is quite nice. We can also change that and buff it up if we take something like the Blade of the First Blood in our offhand. We'll give 26 armor class. I got the Helm of Baldur for +1 armor class. Same with the Cloak of Protection. But we can even add in the Boots of Protection and the Ring of Protection for 28 armor class. But I'm using some cold damage. So we got the Snowburst Ring. And you may be asking, where is the cold damage coming from? Now, we can have a teammate with a Drake Throat Glaive, and this can be applied to our bow. and I'm about to show you guys something extremely powerful. So the Snowburst Ring creates a 4.5 meter ice circle around the target, so they can slip on it, which is huge. Also, we get the Winter's Crutches, which gives 2 turns of Encrusted with Frost when we deal cold damage. And then the Boots of Stormy Clamor will do 2 turns of Reverberation when a condition is applied, which we have multiple chances to apply a condition. Also, the Illithid ability Drain will lower their Dexterity, which lowers their armor class. But it can also apply these Boots of Stormy Clamor's Reverberation, which is huge. I got the Amulet of Greater Health for 147 health, but you can also start with the Amulet of Ball to inflict bleeding on the target. And even something like the extra level 2 spell slot's okay, because we don't have many, but getting more is always nice. And yeah, I think that those are some of the best choices. Even the Telekinesis Collar can be okay, but I like the Amulet of Greater Health. And Killer Sweetheart for critical hits. We have Knife of Undermounted King and Blade of Thirst Blood. I got the Gaunter Mail here, which is a pretty solid longbow. But you can go with earlier on we can go Deadshot or the Titan String Bow if you want to use Strength Potions to get that up a little higher. The Hellfire Hand Crossbow and Firestoker alongside Nair Misser are pretty decent as well, but I'm going to go with the Gaunter Mail because we can also use a ring that can apply Radiating Orbs if we cast a spell and do spell damage. So there's some different options for synergies here. And yeah, the way we want to be going about this is we're going to take Shadowheart here, and she's going to use the Draconic Elemental Weapon, and the cold version of this gives a +1 to attack rolls, and it gives us... Oh, I did that on my main hand. So I meant to actually do that. So if you pull out your bow, you can actually get it applied to the bow. So I kind of goofed up there. I actually just applied it to my Knife of the Undermounted King. So don't make that mistake that I did. You want to use it on the Gaunter Mail, and then what we want to do is attack from range. And then, so you got things like the Horde Breaker, which allows you to attack twice, which is kind of nice. But you typically want to be starting with, you get that free follow-up attack, which is pretty cool. But with the Ice Ring, we would be able to apply ice damage to our target, and then they would create an ice ring around it. I'll just go up and stab them just to show you what I mean by that, but there's going to be that ice surface there, and then they'll slip and fall on it a bunch. And we can attack from range and use Arrow of Many Targets to hit a bunch of people with that. And the nice thing about it is if we go ahead and attack again here, we can also freeze the target. So we're going to go ahead with Create Water because he's got Encrusted with Frost on him. And then boom, we are... I guess it doesn't apply to teammates, but we would be able to... With the Chilled, we'd be able to freeze them and get a little extra damage in. So, yeah, what we want to do with this is basically just go in and attack with our main hand weapon, or our bow with the, when we get that Encrusted with Frost and the ice on the ground. Since I kind of screwed that up, we'll go with a different route. You can take off the Snowburst Ring, and if you don't want to use the cold build, you can go with something else. Like the Ring of Protection is pretty solid. The Crusher's Ring for increased movement speed, or the ring that gives the extra acid damage can be another nice one. Yeah, I kind of screwed up by not putting it on the bow, but whenever you're using this, make sure that you do bring out your bow here so that you can get that applied to the main hand weapon, opposed to putting it onto your other weapon there. So this does take a long rest, but you can also apply fire, lightning, or thunder damage. So there's lots of freedom there of making this build pretty powerful. But the thing that we want to do is we want to attack with our volleys. So these would create a huge ring of ice around there. I'm really... I wish I could have done that better. I might just long rest, and then we'll try that again in a minute. We'll just return to camp, get that applied again, and then I guess we'll go to camp. So... yeah, that's the beauty of this build, is we get all that extra damage. I don't think I rested there. No, I didn't. So, guess we can long rest. End the day. There we go. So with the with that extra cold damage, it can deal a ton. So I guess good again. Got to go to bed here. You get the idea of this. I won't waste any more time, but basically you want to pull out your bow, get the ice damage on there, attack with volley. You can crowd control with spike growth that'll hold everyone in place, and then you can just follow it up with like ensnaring strikes, hail of thorns for a little bit extra damage. And these are just going to continue to stack your ice up, which is huge. And then you can also use lightning arrow whenever the water melts, and that'll deal extra damage because they're going to have that weakness to the lightning arrows. But volley is typically going to be our best friend for this because it's going to be going to allow us to continually spam ice around the area, and then basically once we have the ice up, we can crowd control pretty effortlessly because they're going to have the wet applied to them, and then they're going to take double cold and lightning damage, which we have things like lightning arrow for that, which is pretty effective, and it can jump from target to target, dealing a little bit extra damage. But yeah, volley is just such a powerful skill, and that is really the best benefit of having the hunter ranger, is being able to use that. Also, the horde breaker is pretty good too for just being able to attack a couple people early on, and you get that extra follow-up attack there, which is really nice. But yeah, you basically want to be applying the cold as much as possible, because if you can make the targets trip and fall, that is exactly what we want to see happen. And be mindful, you can fall yourself, so that's why it's best to use this from a distance. But as you can see, people are just falling left, right, and center here, and that is the true benefit of this build, because you're going to get advantage on the attacks. But you can leave behind a watery trail for all your lightning arrows as well, making this a pretty powerful build overall. So yeah, everyone's slipping and falling around on the floor. We got ice, we got crowd control everywhere, and we got ensnaring strike if that doesn't work for us. So yeah, this is a pretty powerful build in Baldur's Gate 3. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.